Welcome to our channel Imam Ali's Legacy. Our channel aims to shed light on the invaluable lessons and guidance imparted by Imam Ali, covering a wide range of topics including spirituality, leadership, justice, morality, and philosophy. Through detailed explanations, reflections, and insightful interpretations, we bring Imam Ali's words to life, helping you connect with his divine wisdom in today's world. Whether you're seeking spiritual growth, intellectual enlightenment, or simply a deeper understanding of the teachings of one of history's most influential leaders, this channel is for you. Join us as we embark on a journey of knowledge and inspiration straight from the sacred texts of Nahjul Balagha. Subscribe to stay updated with weekly content, including sermons, letters, and sayings of Imam Ali, along with their meanings and practical applications in our lives. General aspect of Ali's warnings. This prologue was intended to cast some light at the particular aspect of the warnings of Amir al-Mu'minin against worldliness, as a specific reaction to a particular social phenomenon of his time. Yet aside from this particular feature, there is a general aspect to Ali's words that is not confined flying to his own time and all times and all people as an essential part of Islamic teachings. This specific logic emanates from the teaching of the Holy Quran, which is followed up in the sayings of the Holy Prophet, Amir al-Mu'minin, and the rest of Imam Sari, as well as in the writings of great Muslim sages. However, it is a logic which needs a detailed analysis. In the present discussion, our concern will be more with the general aspect of the discourses of Amir al-Mu'minin, in the sense that in them, Ali times, he addresses himself to all human beings of every school has its own terminology. Every school of thought has a terminology which is specific to it. In order to understand the concepts and issues of a certain school, it is essential to be familiar with its terms. On the other hand, in order to understand its particular terminology, it is necessary, in the first place, to understand its general view of the universe, life and man, that is, its Weltanschauung. Islam has a clear view of being and creation. It has a particular way of looking at man and his life. One of the fundamental principles of the Islamic world outlook is the notion that there is no duality of any kind whatsoever in being. That is, the world of creation is not divisible into two domains of good and evil. That is, it is not true that some existent beings are good and beautiful and should have been created, whereas some others are evil and ugly and should not have been created but nevertheless exist. Such a view is regarded as kafir in the Islamic world outlook and is considered contrary to the principle of Tawhid. According to Islam, the creation of all things and beings is based on goodness, wisdom and beauty. You see no imperfection whatsoever in the creation of the All-Merciful One. Quran 6:7-3. He knows the unseen and the seen. Mu'izz is the Almighty, the All-Compassionate, who made everything He created good. Quran 3:2-6-7. Accordingly, Islam's condemnation of the world does not apply to the world of creation. The Islamic world outlook rests on the foundation of pure Tawheed and lays great emphasis on the unity of the acting principle. It does not admit the existence of any partner who would share Allah's sovereignty. Such a world outlook can never be pessimistic. The idea of an evil world abounding in crookedness and wickedness is not Islamic. Then why does it denounce the word condemned world? Commonly, it is said that attachment to the world is condemned and disapproved by Islam. This is both true and false. If what is implied is an emotional attachment, it cannot be true because man, in relation to the total system of creation, has been created with a series of congenital emotional attachments and inclinations. In addition, he does not acquire these inclinations, nor are they superfluous or incongruous. Even as in the human body there is no superfluous organ not even a single nerve ending geo, so also there are no redundant congenital tendencies of attachment in his nature. All innate human tendencies and aptitudes have a purpose which is wise and sagacious. The Holy Quran regards such tendencies as the signs of the divine wisdom and the Creator's consummate design. And summon of His signs is that He created for you of yourselves spouses so that you may repose in them, and He has set between you love and mercy. Quran 3:121. These attachments and sentiments form a series of channels of communication between man and his world. Without them, man would not be able to pursue the course of his development. Consequently, it should be said that the Islamic world outlook, even as it does not permit us to denounce and reject the world, it also does allow us to regard the natural attachments and the channels of communication as superfluous, useless and breakable, because such sentiments and tendencies are a part of the general pattern of creation. In fact, the prophets and the awliya were endowed with these sentiments and emotions to a high degree of exuberance. The truth is that what is implied by attachment to the world are not these natural and innate inclinations. Instead, what is meant is bondage to material and worldly things or affairs and total surrender to them, which leads to spiritual stagnation and inertia, depriving the human spirit of its freedom of movement and buoyancy and making it immobile and dead. This is what Islam calls worldliness and has severely campaigned against it as something contrary to the evolutionary system of creation. Not only this, Islam considers this struggle as being in tune with the laws of the evolutionary processes of creation. The expressions employed by the Holy Quran in this regard are miraculous, as we shall explain in the following sections. Relationship between man and world, as made explicit in the last chapter, that which is disapproved by the Holy Quran and by Nahjul Balagha is neither the world in itself, nor the natural and innate human urges and attachments. In the view of Islam, neither has the world been created without a purpose, nor has man strayed into it aimlessly. There have been some schools of thought which view the world with pessimism. In their view, the existing order of the universe is far from being perfect. There have existed other schools which considered man's entry into the world of existence to be the result of some cosmic error, as if man had strayed into it. According to them, man is a total stranger in this world with which he has no ties of consanguinity and is a prisoner of existence. Like Joseph, he has been thrown into the black hole of being by his evil brethren, where he is confined, and his every endeavor should be aimed at finding an exit from such an abyss. Obviously, when the relation of man to the world and nature is regarded as the one between a prison and its prisoner, an abyss in which one is entrapped, one's ultimate aim cannot be anything but seeking deliverance from it. Logic of Islam, but from the Islamic viewpoint. The relation of man to the world is not that of a prisoner with his prison, or that of one entrapped in a well with the well. Rather, it is the kind of relation that exists between a peasant and his farm 91, or a horse and the racecourse 92, or a merchant and the marketplace 93, or a devotee and his temple 94. The world, from the Islamic point of view, is a school for man, his training ground, and the place where he can acquire perfection. There is an anecdote narrated in Nahjul Balagha of a man who condemned the world in Amir al-Mu'minin's presence. Ali rebuked him for his confusing the world which is condemned by Islam with the this is a tradition of the Prophet, actual physical world, and informed him about his error 95. Sheikh Farid al-Din Attar has rendered this incident into poetry in his Musibat name. Thus, in the presence of the Tiger of Providence, a man denounced the world with vehemence. The world, exclaimed Haider, is not to blame. Wretched are you, being far from wisdom. The world's sun is a farm to be tended day and night. Whatsoever is of the honor and riches of faith, and in all it is to be acquired from this world. Tomorrow's fruit is the blooming of today's seed, and one who is idle here shall taste the bitter fruit of regret. The world is the best place for you, wherein you can prepare provision for the hereafter. Go into the world, but do not get immersed in the ego, and prepare yourself for the other world. If you act thus, the world will suit you. Hence, befriend the world just for this aim. Nasir Khusro Alawi, justifiably considered as a philosopher among the poets and Hakim or Shu'ara, is one of the most profound and truly religious among Persian poets. He has composed a praise about the world, simultaneously highlighting both the good and the evil qualities of it, which is as much in conformity with the Islamic outlook as it is extraordinarily beautiful from the artistic viewpoint. This praise appears in his collected poetical works Diwan and is included in his book Jami al-Hikmatain. He says the following, O world, how apt and essential you are, even though you haven't been loyal to any. Sick and wretched you appear to the afflicted eye, yet fine and healthy if one looks at your inside. If sometimes you have broken a robust man or two, many a broken one you have joined and restored. You are filthy to the unclean, to the pure unstained. If anyone should blame you, say, you know me not. You have grown out of me. If you are wise, why blame of which you are a branch? The Master made me a path for your ascending journey, and you have settled down on this lowly road. Allah planted a tree from whose trunk you have grown. If you grow out straight, you will be saved, and if crooked, confined to the flames. Yes, everyone burns crooked branches, and asks not, is it teak or walnut? You are the arrow of Allah aimed at his enemy. Why have you hurt yourself with this weapon? Now it is evident that man's relation to the world is similar to the one that exists between the farmer and his field of cultivation, the merchant and the marketplace, the devotee and the temple. It is not possible for man to alienate himself from the world or sever his ties with it or develop a kind of relationship which is wholly negative. There exists a design and intelligent planning behind every natural urge. Man has neither come to this world by cheating or fraud, nor should he go from here cursed. There is a general force of attraction and gravitation that encompasses the whole universe. All the particles in it attract each other according to a set pattern. This pattern of mutual attraction and absorption is determined by a judicious design. Moreover, the force of attraction and love is not confined to man alone. No particle in the universe is devoid of this power. The difference, however, is that man, contrary to other beings, is aware of his own leanings and inclinations. Washi Kemani says the following: every dancing particle is permeated with the same force of attraction that draws it towards a certain specific goal. It carries one rower to the side of another, and urges one spark to pursue the company of its likes, from fire to wind, from water to dust, from underneath the moon to the top of the heavens. From flock to flock, and from horde to horde, you will observe this attraction in every moving thing, from heavenly spheres to the terrestrial bodies. Accordingly, from the Islamic viewpoint, the world is neither without a purpose, nor are the human beings created by any error, nor are man's innate tendencies undesirable and evil. Then what is meant by the world that the Holy Quran and Nahjul Balagha regard as undesirable and condemnable? Before embarking on the issue, a few preliminary principles need to be clarified. It is characteristic of man that he is inherently an idealist and a lover of perfection. He is in pursuit of something with which he wants to develop a relationship closer than an ordinary attachment. In other words, he is by nature a devotee and a worshipper in search of something which is the ultimate object of his desire and the end of his entire being. However, if he is not rightly guided or not on his guard, his relationship with things and inclination towards them is transformed into a relationship of reliance and attachment, changing means into end and an association into bondage. As a result, his spirit of mobility, freedom, and ability to pursue are transformed into inertia, complacence, and captivity. This is what is undesirable and contrary to the perfection-seeking order of the world. It is a defect and a kind of non-being, not a merit or a positive mode of a being. It is a dangerous malady and a disaster for man. The Holy Quran and Nahjul Balagha warn against it. Without any doubt, Islam does not regard the material world and life in its view, even if it involves the greatest material achievements, dunya, as a fitting goal of man's highest aspirations. This is so because, firstly, from the Islamic world outlook, this world is followed by the eternal and everlasting world of the hereafter, where conditions of life will be determined by the deeds, good or evil, of a person in this world. Secondly, the value of a human being is too great to warrant his surrender to the slavery of and servitude to the material aspects of life. This is why Ali Len so often points out that the world is a good place, but only for one who knows that it is not a permanent abode, only a road, a caravanserai. What a good abode it is for whoever would not want to make it a home. This world is, indeed, a transit camp, whereas the hereafter is a place of permanent abode. So take from the transit what you need for your destination. From the viewpoint of humanistic philosophies, there is no doubt that everything which binds man to itself and immerses him completely within itself violates his human identity by making it inert and frozen. The process of human perfection knows no limit nor end. Every halt, delay, and bondage is injurious to it. As we find no reason to controvert this view, we accept it without any argument. However, there are two other points that need to be discussed here. Firstly, does the Holy Quran and following it Nahjul Balagha confirm such a relationship between man and his world? Is it true that what the Holy Quran condemns is attachment and bondage to the world when taken as the ultimate end of life, an attitude which retards man's movement towards perfection and represents inertness, stagnation, and non-being? Does the Holy Quran abstain from absolutely condemning worldly ties and sentiments so long as they do not become man's ultimate goal of life, stalling his progress? Secondly, if it is admitted that human attachment to beings other than himself causes bondage and servitude and retards the development of human personality, does it make any difference if that being is Allah or someone or something else? The Holy Quran negates every form of bondage and servitude and calls upon man to welcome every kind of spiritual and human freedom. It does not, however, condemn servitude to Allah. It does not invite man to liberate himself from Allah in order to acquire absolute freedom. Instead, the invitation of the Holy Quran is based on liberation from everything besides Allah and complete surrender to High and only to Him. It is based on the rejection of obedience to anything except to Him and the acceptance of such a submission to Him. The expression La ilaha illa Allah there is no God except Allah is the foundation of the Islamic faith. It implies simultaneously a negation and an affirmation, a rejection and an acceptance, kafr and iman. It signifies the negation, the rejection, the renunciation and the kafr in relation to the non-God, and the affirmation, acceptance, submission and iman in relation to Allah. The essential testimony required by Islam is neither just a wise nor merely a allo. It is a combination of both a yes and no. If the needs of the growth of the human personality demand that man should liberate himself from every kind of bondage, servitude and submissiveness to anything whatsoever, that he should rebellion against everything that compromises his absolute freedom, that he ought to say no to everything you as the advocates of existentialism claim, what difference does it make whether that thing is Allah or something else? And if it is to be decided that man should renounce his freedom and adopt slavery, servitude and submission to someone or something, what difference does it make, after all, whether it is Allah or someone or something else? Is there a difference between accepting Allah as the supreme ideal and accepting some other thing as the summum bonum? Does it mean that only Allah is such that servitude to Him is freedom in itself, and that losing of oneself in Him is identical with the realization of oneself and the recovery of one's true identity and personality? And if this is true, what is the basis of this claim? How can it be justified? In our opinion, here we arrive at one of the most subtle, profound and progressive teachings of Islam and one of the most glorious of human ideologies. It is here that the sublimity of the logic of Islam and the insignificance and petness of other ideologies becomes evident. We shall answer these queries in the following sections. The world in the Holy Quran and Nahjul Balagha in the last chapter. We said that what is execrable from the viewpoint of Islam with regard to man's relationship with the world is that it should grow to the extent of becoming a malady and an affliction of the human soul. It is the bondage and the enslaving attachment to the world against which Islam has waged an unrelenting struggle, considering it as undesirable, not the mere relationship with an attachment to it. It is the life of captivity that is condemnable, not the life of freedom. The world is rejected as a goal and objective, not as a way or a means. If the relationship of man to the world develops into his servitude and subjugation, it leads to the negation and obliteration of all higher human values. Man's worth lies in the greatness of pursued ends and objectives. Obviously, if, for instance, his ultimate objectives do not go beyond filling his belly to satisfaction, and if all his efforts and aspirations were to revolve around his stomach, his worth will not surpass that of his stomach. That is why Ali says the following: the worth of a man whose only aim is to stuff his equally is equal to that which is excreted from it. The question is, what kind of relationship is appropriate between the human being and the world, and what form should it have? In one kind of relationship, his personality is effaced and sacrificed to things. And since the worth of anyone in pursuit of an objective is lower than the objective itself, he is, to use a Quranic expression, bound to sink to the level of the lowest of the low asphalt safeling, becoming thereby the most abject, degenerate and contemptible creature in the world. He then loses not only his higher values but also his human identity. In the other kind of relationship, the world and worldly things are sacrificed at the altar of his humanity and are used to serve man while he reclaims his higher ideals. This is why it has been said in one Qudsi hadith, "O son of Adam, I have created everything for your sake, but I have created you for my own self." We have already cited two passages from Nahjul Balagha indicating its status in denouncing the degenerate and distorted kind of relationship between man and the world of nature that leads to man's servitude and bondage. Here, we shall quote a few verses from the Holy Quran to endorse this viewpoint and return to Nahjul Balagha for further relevant references. The Quranic verses relevant to man and the world are of two kinds. The first group of verses is of an introductory nature, that is, it lays the ground for the second group of verses. In truth, the first group can be regarded as representing the major and the minor premises of a syllogism, of which the second group constitutes the conclusion. The first set of verses consists of those which emphasize the changeability, the inconstancy, and the ephemeral nature of this world. In these verses, the reality of material objects is depicted as being changeable, fleeting, and transitory. For instance, the world is compared to the vegetation that sprouts from the ground. In the beginning, it is green and flourishing, but little by little it turns yellow, it shrivels and ultimately dries up. In the end, the elements break it into bits and scatter it into the wind. Such is life in the present world. obviously whether man likes it or not. His physical life is not much more durable than that of the reed and is subject to a similar fate. If a man must base his outlook on reality, not on fancy, and if it is only through the discovery of truth, not by flight of imagination and hallucinations, that he can hope to attain felicity and true happiness, then he should not forget this fact. This set of verses constitutes a sort of a background argument for denying the importance of material things as ultimate ideals worthy of man's adoration. These verses are followed immediately by the reminder that man should know that there exists another world which is eternal and everlasting. Do not imagine that the present life is everything. Since it is not worthy of man, do not conclude that life is futile and meaningless, they remind. The second set of verses illuminates the solution to the problem of man's relationship to the world. It can be clearly seen from these verses that the execrable form of relationship is one that grows to the extent of becoming a bondage, requiring man's submission, willing surrender and servitude to the transitory things of the world. It is in these verses that the crux of the Holy Quran's logic comes to light. Wealth and sons are the adornment of the worldly life, but the abiding things, the deeds of righteousness and which survive one's death and continue to benefit other people, are better with Allah in reward and better in hope. Quran 18:46, and this verse, as can be seen, speaks of the ultimate aspiration of man. His ultimate aspiration is the thing for which he lives and without which life has no meaning in his eyes. Surely those who look not to encounter us and are well pleased with the present life and are at rest in it, and those who are heedless of our signs, their refuge is the fire, for that they have been earning. Quran 10:7-8 in this verse. That which is considered execrable is the absence of hope in the next life and the satisfaction and contentment with material things. So turn from him who turns away from our remembrance and desires only the present life. That is the extent of end their attainment of knowledge. Quran 5:30, 20:29-30. They rejoice in this world's life, and this world's life is a nothing compared with the hereafter but a temporary enjoyment. Quran 13:26, that they know an outward part of the present life, but of the hereafter they are heedless. Quran 30:7. There are many other verses which have a similar meaning. In all of them the same theme recurs. That is the negation of the world as the goal and ideal of man's highest aspirations and the ultimate object of his desire and the only source of his happiness and delight. It is held that this form of relationship between man and the world, instead of putting the world at man's disposal, sacrifices man to it and dispossesses him of his humanity. In Nahjul Balagha, as in the Holy Quran, we encounter a similar twofold argument. In the first set of statements, the transitory nature of the world is depicted in profound, forceful metaphors, allegories and parables put in precise and elegant phrases which follow one another in an absorbing rhythm. In the second category, conclusions are drawn which are exactly the same as those derived by the Holy Quran. In Qatbah 32, people are at first divided into two categories, the worldly and the otherworldly. The worldly people are again divided into 4 groups. In the first group are put those who are meek and tractable like a sheep. They are the most innocuous of creatures, never seen to commit any overt injustice or aggression, or covert deceit or subversion. Not that they detest such things, but because they lack the power and daring to carry them out. To the second category belong those who possess both the power and the daring to carry out such ambitions. They muster their will to amass money and wealth, to acquire power and authority, or to occupy important posts and offices, and do not stop short of any degree of perverseness. Those belonging to the third group are wolves in the skins of sheep. They are slaves of the world in the garb of the otherworldly and the pious. The wise sanctimoniously hang their heads in affected humility, walk with the slow steps of a sage, and dress like the devout. Through their hypocrisy they win the confidence of the people and become their most confident trustees. To the fourth group belong those whose hearts burn regretfully with the fire of ambition, but their feeling of inferiority has forced them to retire to seclusion. They put on the dress of piety and zuhd in order to conceal their deep sense of inferiority and dejection. All the 4 kinds of people, regardless of the diverse degrees of their success and failure, are regarded by Ali 998 to constitute, spiritually, a single class on account of their commonly shared attituding, worldliness. Why? Because all of them have one common characteristic: they are like the unfortunate birds whom the world has made its prey one way or another. Captured, they enjoy no longer the freedom of flight. They are slaves and prisoners of the world. In the same sermon, Ali describes the qualities of the otherworldly. the opposite group and says the following: evil is the barter of those who purchase this world at the cost of their souls. In the eyes of Ali and Ding, the whole world with everything in it is too inferior to be the price of a man's humanity. Hence it ends in the great loss of one who exchanges it for his human identity. Nasir Khusro has the same theme in mind when he says the following: never shall I fall an easy prey to the world, for no more do its was burden my heart. In fact, I am the hunter and the world my prey, though once it did pursue me on its hunt. Though many a man has fallen pierced by its arrows, the world could not make me a target. My soul flies over the world's tides, and no more do I worry about its waves and tides. This theme that one should never sacrifice humanity for anything in the world is a theme that recurs a lot in the sayings of the leaders of the Islamic faith. Amir al-Mu'minin Ali Ding, in his famous will to Imam al-Hasandi, which is included in the section of epistles, letters in Nahjul Balagha, says the following: keep yourself above every contemptible thing, because whatever it may be, it is not worth the compromise of yourself. In Tuhaf al-Yukul, the following tradition is recording: Imam al-Sajjad was asked, who is the most important among people? He replied, the one who does not regard the whole world to be equal to his worth. There are many traditions which deal with a similar theme, but we shall abstain from quoting more for the sake of brevity. A close study of the Holy Quran, Nahjul Balagha, and the sayings of other religious leaders will reveal that Islam has not depreciated the world. Rather, it has elevated the station and worth of the human being as compared to it. In Islam, the world is for the sake of man and not the other way around. It aims to revive the human values, not to disparage the world.